Tim Davies, a speech worthy of a Red Arrows fly past. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure. The iconic RAF Red Arrows jets are in danger of being replaced by Russian jets loved by Vladimir Putin in a move slammed as outrageous. Let's speak now with the former RAF fighter pilot and instructor, Tim Davies. Tim, welcome to the show. So Sir Keir Starmer was probed on this matter at the Jaguar Land Rover plant earlier on. He said, no, they won't be built by Russia, but he didn't say they definitely will be built in Britain. Surely the Red Arrows should be British.
Yeah, he says a lot of things, doesn't he? But the British people, Martin, we know, we've got onto Starmer, we understand him. Look, it's an Italian airplane based on a Russian design. Let's get it right, and it's a good airplane, the M-346. We've got Royal Air Force pilots training out on that aircraft already, but primarily, Martin, it's because the aircraft we're using in fast jet training, the one that I taught on for a decade, is unfortunately failing. It has engine problems, so we've outsourced the training. But either way, we need to train British pilots on British airplanes, and we need to promote British industry, and that's something we're very poor at.
And I believe that the factory in Yorkshire that made these Hawks closed in 2020, another failure. How on earth can we let strategic industries like that lapse into closure, Tim?
Well, because the uni-party are idiots. We all know that, of course. We'd rather just bring in cheap goods from overseas and then watch our own industries destroy itself, wonder why we're not a world power anymore. We know how it is, and you promote good content on your channel, as we know. We need to start getting behind this. We need to start buying British. And there are companies that are building British. We're just neglecting them because it's an easier thing to go out and invest in some other company overseas, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
I think you're exactly right. But do you think that the Red Arrow must be British?
Well, obviously, I mean, it's ridiculous to think of anything else. Can you imagine us flying an Italian aircraft based on a Russian design? It's a mockery of the entire country. You know what? I honestly think, Martin, this is intentional now. I think it's being done on purpose to bring down the United Kingdom. I'm not standing for it. I don't know about you. I know the people on your channel won't stand for it either. But we need to start thinking strategically on this. We need to make sure, we need to campaign with our politicians to make these things British again. This is the Royal Air Force Red Arrows. They're the premier aerobatic display team in the world. I mean, this is the oldest Royal Air Force in the world. It's over 100 years old. It's trained all the other air forces around the world and the Commonwealth. I know that because I trained all the pilots that came in to the Royal Air Force to be trained. It's an absolute mockery, the whole thing. I can't believe it's going to happen. I honestly don't believe it will, but we've got to be sensible about it.
Welcome back. The Red Arrows, the RAF's crack display team, amazing pilots who put on incredible displays. Basically for 50 years or so, they've been flying around in Hawk planes, Hawk T2 planes, apparently. And they stopped production. They've been around for half a century or so. They stopped production in 2020, and an alternative jet is required for these ace pilots. The plane that seems to be mainly in the frame, see that? That's good, that, isn't it? Is an aeroplane called the Aermacchi M-346, which is partially designed by Italy, but mainly designed by Russia. So it's essentially a Russian plane. Defence Minister Maria Eagle said the Aermacchi M-346 fast jet trainer is one of several market options available. Well, am I alone in thinking that maybe our sort of crack air display team, the RAF's crack air display team, should, preferably, I suppose, go around in a jet made by Britain, but certainly not by Russia? Seems a bit odd. Let's talk to excellent former RAF fighter pilot Tim Davies. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Good to see you again, Kevin.
Always a pleasure. Well, what do you think about? I mean, I don't know much about aeroplanes or the RAF or anything like that, but it seems to me that the Red Arrows, if you like, almost the most famous iteration of our fabulous Air Force, shouldn't they be flying in British jets and certainly not Russian jets? What's going on here, do you think?
Well, it depends whether you want to destroy the country from the top down, doesn't it? With our uni-party approach, we shouldn't trust Labour, Conservatives or Reform. Look, it's all a bit of a plan, isn't it, really? You want to break down the national sort of identity of this country. And by doing that, of course, what better way than either disband the Red Arrows or get them flying an aircraft that isn't British? It's truly abhorrent, and it's the Hawk T1 they've flown. That aircraft is 50 years old, and I know that because I'm 50. I'm actually older than the aircraft by about 2.5 months. So as you can see there, Hawk T1, nothing really to replace it, because the Hawk T2 that I instructed on for about a decade, Kevin, again, there's only 28 of those. They've been plagued with engine problems. We've got to look elsewhere. There is a British company we can look at, by the way, but people don't want to look at the British company because it's easier to buy something off the shelf from overseas and neglect British industry.
What is the British company that we could look at?
Well, it's called AERALIS. I used to be the strategy director until about 2019, so I am slightly biased, but it is an absolutely stunning company. They are making a modular fast jet flying training aircraft, and they are getting traction. They've had financing from all over the world at the moment. The British government doesn't seem to have fully committed, which doesn't surprise me, of course, because it's much easier, isn't it, to, as I said, look elsewhere and just watch the decline of this absolutely once great, yet still awesome nation.
Let's tell you a story, apropos of nothing, but it was years ago, many years ago. I was down in Brighton, and it was a very, very sunny, crowded bank holiday Monday, I think it was. Anyway, millions of people on the beach, almost literally. And suddenly the Red Arrows arrived, and they were putting off this sort of classically amazing display. And suddenly, so they were going over the pier and all this. We go, oh, wow, look at this. And then suddenly there was this sort of big bang. And everybody's going, what are they getting up to now? And we saw this sort of plane go past, whistling. And we noticed there was no one in it. And then a pilot had ejected. Had to eject, and the plane plunged into the sea, flew over the pier with no one in it, and the pilot survived. But that's my Red Arrow story. Actually, the only time I ever saw the Red Arrows, they screwed up. But they didn't do it. The point of that long rambling story is that was the exception that proved the rule. I mean, this is a display team, well, probably the best in the world, right?
Well, did they screw up that day, Kevin, or did they save many innocent lives on the ground? Is how you frame it, of course, isn't it? They are the world's greatest display team. There's no two ways about it. And of course, don't get me wrong, when they go around the world, other display teams come out and speak to the Red Arrows. It's not the other way around, by the way. The United States Air Force Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, they all come up. The Snowbirds from Canada all come up to the Red Arrows and they talk to them, because they're flying a very dated aircraft, but the level of skill, of course, within the team is exceptionally high. And that's the only job they do. They just train the whole time to make sure they're the best. And of course, unfortunately, I think we're letting them down massively. We're letting the British people down, Kevin, is what we're doing. Of course we are. How can we ever fly a display team? The Royal Air Force, the oldest air force in the world. How on earth can we portray ourselves out to the rest of the world without flying a British aircraft? It doesn't make sense, but maybe it's not supposed to make sense. It's just another thing, isn't it, that's going to drag this country down.
But what you're saying, Tim, and it's very important, is that the government, if it made some effort, could find a company to make a great jet for the Red Arrows. Instead, it looks as if they're going down the franchise out path, and they're just going to buy in some foreign jet, which, horror of horrors, might be Russian. I mean, that's almost treachery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, the government's treacherous. I've said this before. Let's not think the government are intelligent. And it's not just this government, it's the governments preceding them. Look what the Conservatives did to this country. Look what Boris Johnson did with 4 times the level of immigration before he ever came in. So we're actually looking at the wrong thing here. We need to side with the British people, not with this autocratic state that we're living under. The Yak 130 was a Russian aircraft designed back in about 92, I think it was. And then it became the Aermacchi M-346, which was by Finmeccanica before they became a company called Leonardo. It's a great airplane. Let's not say it's not. It's a lovely airplane. It's a very good airplane. And we've got Royal Air Force students training on that airplane right now. And that's the thing. It's an easy shoe-in, isn't it? Because we've got Air Force guys out there. We've got Air Force guys in America. And why? It's because we haven't looked after our own flying training system, because we privatized it back in 2008 and it didn't work out the way it should have worked. It's very easy to cover that up, isn't it? By buying something in, as opposed to investing, as we should be doing, in British industry, creating British jobs for British people, getting into the houses that they need and building the families. And as I said, getting them the work to support those families. It's much easier to go and buy something else. It's disgraceful, Kevin, is what it is. I can't sit back from it. I was in the service for 20 years. Just seeing what's happening now, unfortunately, from the top down is to me, absolutely abhorrent.
I haven't got long left, Tim. Great to talk to you again. But just very quickly, what is going on with the RAF generally? Aren't they sort of rejecting anybody who happens to be white and middle class as a pilot in favour favour of looking for people of colour, for women, etc., etc. Whereas I believe you and I have discussed this before. Surely in the area of defence of the realm in the air, the only criterion for hiring anyone should be that they are the best. Nothing else. And yet we're bringing in other factors, aren't we?
Well, I mean, good men and women like yourself in these positions, Kevin, actually kicked the Air Force in the touch, and rightly so. You basically shone a mirror up to them, didn't you? And you said, this is who you are. You are not a meritocratic organisation now because you're employing people purely based on their race and their gender. I call it sex because I'm not a new woke person. I just have one or two, you know what I mean? Old school is what I am. But don't forget, this is not just the Royal Air Force. This was driven from the Cabinet Office. This was driven through the Ministry of Defence and then into the Air Force, as it was in education, healthcare, as it was through across all defence. This is the whole problem. We've just seen it with the Sentencing Council, where you'll get a pre-sentencing report unless you're a white man in this country. That's absolutely horrific, and luckily that was kicked into touch. It's unstoppable. Yeah. That's the country we live in now, and the only hope we've got, Kevin, is good people like yourself and your audience that can stand up to it and say this is not good enough. And
you too. We need people like you, Tim. You and me, white guys, you know, middle class, middle-aged. We're an endangered species, but great to talk to you again. Come on again soon. It's been too long. Tim Davies, former RAF fighter pilot there, giving it to you straight. Amazing, eh?